Ah, look at this. It's another Friday and you guys are back for more right here at Reach Out Reptiles. Or maybe we haven't met yet. If that's the case, my name is Garrett Hartle and this is Reach Out Reptiles. In this free tip Friday, I would like to talk to you about the specifics of how, when, and why you would hook train or tap train a snake, and what does that even mean? Seem a little bit mean, but girlfriend here, the 1-week-old baby Superdwarf, by instinct thinks everything's going to eat her. She needs to learn not only that am I not going to eat her, I'm not going to eat you, but also that biting does not bother me at all. And they learn that pretty quickly, and then guess what they stop doing? Biting. Once they learn that biting doesn't bother humans, they stop doing it. It doesn't bother them anymore. So we just don't act scared until they're not scared and put them away. A bite like this doesn't really amount to anything from a new baby, but it sure would if they were a whole lot bigger. Something to think about when you pick up a new pet. If you're unfamiliar with communicating to them that you're not there to hurt them, you might want to get it from somebody who's going to do that for you. This week, I ran into a long thread about hook training or tap training that was posted by Jason Mabry on Facebook. His specific question was, how young should you start hook training a snake? And one of the comments was from Ian Gallagher, and he noticed that hook training actually made his animal more defensive. And there were several conversations that started through private messaging with me over the course of the last week or whatever. And so I kind of figured it was apparent that, you know, I think most of us have probably heard of the idea of hook training or tap training if we've been researching how to handle snakes. But I wonder if everybody even knows why you do that. So just real quickly to answer the question, I think the general consensus to the question of how early should you start tap training snakes that I saw on that thread was immediately and right away. Now that might be true if you are purchasing a snake and you bring it home and it's already an established animal from a breeder. But as a breeder, I would tell you that, you know, that's probably not the most accurate answer. Having an increased amount of handling experience for a snake when it is young is certainly a benefit. But hook training, you're not going to start until a snake actually has a feed response. See, a feed response is a trained and triggered mechanism within that snake in reaction to the schedule that you have at your house and in your situation. They don't find food the same way in the wild as they will in a captive situation. There's a lot of learned behavior in those very early days. And until a snake has a feed response, there's no reason to do any hook training. Hook training is not something that we use to make an animal tame. Hook training is very specifically used to break an animal's food response. Allow me to explain. Let's imagine that you're a little snake sitting inside of a semi-clear tub. This is what that might look like. It may take a little bit of experience for an animal to recognize the difference between what it looks like to have a giant warm-blooded hand coming in that may look to it somewhat like a predator, especially if it's relying on its heat pits to see that, because it's going to see that warm-blooded item. That might look very similar to what happens when you offer it a food source. In this case, I have a Reptilink, but it could be a mouse, a rat, a bird, whatever you may happen to feed your animals. So with the hook training method, when you approach that animal, it's going to look completely different because there is no heat signature or really any kind of mammalian prey scent at the end of that hook. So this is what hook training allows us to do. Some people call it tap training, and they like tap the snake or whatever. And I can see the point that Ian would bring up about an animal becoming more defensive around you if all you ever do is pull open a tub and whack it with something. Go try that out on a snake outside and see what happens. So hook training is not taming or acclimating the snake to your presence. The hook training is simply presenting yourself in a different manner to that animal if it's looking for food. Now every time you open the tub, it may not be looking for food. And if it's not, there's no reason to pet the head with a hook or try to break a feed response when there's no feed response. A while back in the last video, I introduced my second daughter, Riley. And she's become a whiz with handling. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and let her explain it to you.
These are my gloves. And this is my hook. I can do two different things. One is, if they're hungry, they'll come forward. Or second, if they're scared, they'll pull back away. So if they're hungry, we use the hook. We gently put them on the hay. When they're scared, moving backwards, that's when we use the gloves. Putting them on the head with the hook tells them it's not time to eat. We use a hook every time they act hungry, and that's how they learn. You don't poke them like this or hurt them with it. Come on guys, follow me, I'll show you. Now this guy's scared. He's running away from us, so that means he's scared. See how he's ready, like he's going to fight? We don't use the hook right now to pet him on the head, or that will make him even more scared. So what we can do with the hook is just use the hook to push his head onto the other side and then take him out. Now we come up from underneath. When you come from the bottom, they think you're friends. But when you come from the top, they think you're a predator. I don't want to hold him like 2 hours, just until he acts like he's not scared. See how he's acting? He's definitely not scared now. Now here's his treat. Hey, little guy, you're too happy. Stop it. He's definitely not scared. Now he's curious. There we go, buddy. He's hungry. I can kind of see his face. If you look closer, you can kind of see his face there. Right above that key. That means he's hungry, ready to play. We use the hook. I don't hit him, I just be very gentle. Until it's moving backwards. It only takes a few minutes until they become curious. Should they escape? And it takes just a while to make them really curious. This guy's curious right now. I can do that 2 or 3 times a day. Hey, did you know that if you buy my snake from my dad's work, Reptiles, then I can train it until it's really good right before you get it. I do it for $10. That's totally worth you not getting bit. Bye.
Well, hopefully that explains a little bit about hook training or tap training. It's really only there if a snake is approaching you looking for food. Use a hook or some other similar object just to touch it on the head and let it know, hey, you're not eating right now. Everything else is all about acclimating your snake. And I think our resident professional, Riley, even gave you guys a few tips there. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we will catch you next time.
Now what we do now is